Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about why you should not become a medical coder. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, if you are here today because you're thinking of getting into the medical coding field and you're just doing your research, I'm going to give you guys some straight talk, okay? I'm not here to sell y'all anything. If you get into the field or if you don't get into the field, I mean, to me, I'm already a medical coder. I love what I do. And I will always say that it's a great field. However, it is not for everybody, which is the point of today's video. It's not to discourage folks. So if you're thinking about it, but you're on the fence and you have these preconceived notions, I'm going to talk about some of these preconceived notions today. So I hope that you hear my message well and that you know that again, I'm not here to sell you anything, so I'm not going to push more good than anything else. I'm going to tell you guys these are the facts. So let's get into it. All right. You're interested in becoming a medical coder. I actually got a question last week, which prompted today's episode, really, in my head, because I look at the comments to kind of get direction on what content to post, because I won't post content that you guys are not watching. I will only post content that you guys like. So this one question was, is medical coding easy? No, it is not easy. It does not matter if you are using an encoder. It does not matter if the provider is selecting codes already and you're basically checking. It doesn't matter. Medical coding is not easy by any means. And if anybody tells you that it is, they're lying, or they don't know. And sometimes people don't know and they speak like they know. And there's a difference there. I am a veteran medical coder. I've been a medical coder since 2008. I've been a student of medical coding since 2007. So I've had longevity in this field. I've seen a lot and I've experienced a lot with this field. So I can speak from experience. Medical coding is not easy. Medical coding is hard work. And when you think about hard work, you think maybe, oh, like physical labor and things like that. Trust me, working mentally hard is sometimes as tiresome, if not as equally tiring as physical work. I came from a background of a very blue-collar background. I delivered phone books, I cleaned houses, I worked as a bartender in my time before becoming a medical coder. So I know what physical labor feels like, and trust me, sometimes I come in from work as a medical coder and I'm exhausted, and I will just, basically put myself down and fall asleep because I'm that tired, because you use your brain. You use your brain and you're constantly having to learn. So that is something that you should know right up front. That medical coding is not easy. So if somebody lied to you and told you that it's easy, they're wrong. And hopefully you will hear this and know that it's going to take effort and it's going to take some of you getting in there and getting dirty and learning. As far as if you don't sweat, you don't get. Basically, that's what it is. And you have to sweat through some of these books sometimes, because these books are meant to help you to learn. If you have a difficult time learning, if you have a learning disability, it's okay. There's a lot of people in this industry that have learning disabilities, but they do not let that stop them from learning this and from being a really good medical coder. So it's all on you. It's however you want to plan and chart your course, is how you're going to either be really good at this or you're going to run from it. Okay. The next reason to not be a medical coder is that you run from hardship. I mean, if you are going to run from hardship, then that is meaning that you're not going to go very far in this field. Medical coders have a very hard time in the beginning finding a job, and I'm going to be honest with you there. And it's something that has been going on for decades. That all these employers want all these medical coders to have training and to already know how to code, and some of them don't want to have to train people. That's why. And sometimes because these schools pump out these medical coders so fast that a lot of these coders are ill-trained, and they are able to pass an exam because basically they were taught how to pass the exam. And so they get out in the real world and these employers are learning that, oh, new medical coders, some of them, not all of them, but some of them have to be handheld and trained, and they just don't have time for it. So if you're going through one of those fast-paced medical coding programs right now, it's okay. Because the good part about medical coding is that you can learn on your own. We learn from books and we learn on our own. That is the nature of our culture, which is weird because, again, we have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. So it takes a lot of self-study and a lot of discipline to do this field. And so that's the thing. If you don't have that, if you are so ready to run from the first bit of adversity, this is probably not for you, because there's going to be times when you're going to feel discouraged because you're not picking up something fast enough in your mind. And then when in actuality, you're probably going at a normal pace like everybody else. You're just being too hard on yourself. But again, if you quit things as soon as you start them, again, don't start in this. Don't do this because, again, it's probably not for you if you give up right away. This takes endurance and it takes discipline and it takes a lot of like, I am not going to give this up. Because sometimes it's really easy as adults to say, okay, this isn't working for me, so I'm going to try a different field. I've had people who write me who've tried 2 or 3 or 4 hats before getting to this. And they're like, well, you know, I did this and I got my certificate in this and I got my certificate in that. And now I'm going to try medical coding because all those things didn't work out. So again, if that's what you do, if you run, know that this thing is going to, medical coding will make you work for it. I mean, this is not something that is literally easily handed to anybody, the knowledge or the job or the skills. It is not handed to anybody. This is what you have to work for. And, you know, you should know that going into this. It is a lot of study. And again, I'm not here to discourage you if this is the path that you want to take. I just want to give you guys a reality check. Okay. The other reason is that you want to work remotely. Yes, medical coders do work remotely. Even medical billers work remotely. And yes, you will probably have the opportunity to do that. Right now, we are in this weird hybrid time of COVID, no COVID, yes, COVID, no COVID. And so some of these facilities are having like a hybrid schedule of where you're working at home and then maybe you go to the facility. Some are 100% working at home. So you may think, well, I like this because, you know, I can be at home with my family. I won't have to pay for childcare. Keep this in mind. When you are working at home remotely and this is your first job out in the real world as a medical coder, I never recommend this for any brand new medical coder. And before you say, well, I did it and I'm working, I'm successful. Yes, there are some people who can work at home right away and it's no big deal because they're really studious and they understand and they're very disciplined. A lot of people aren't. And let's just be honest here. There are a lot of people who will get into the real world and be like, wow, this is nothing like the book. Yes, it is nothing like the book. And that's the thing. There's a difference between book coding and real world coding. Because now in the real world, you're dealing with people and these providers and how they're going to document whatever way they feel like it, however they feel like it. And so if you are not on site to assist them, of course they're going to go rogue. And sometimes there are some facilities that have an in-house CDI, clinical documentation integrity person who is there, supposed to be hands-on with the providers. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. There's not everybody that knows how to communicate either when it comes to teaching providers medical coding. Okay, it's a completely different thing. But if your sole focus of getting into medical coding is just so that you can work at home, well, Blue, I have this laundry list of reasons why. It doesn't really matter why, okay? I'm telling you that as a brand new medical coder, it is very beneficial if you are on site, so that way you can ask other veteran coders questions and you can actually be in the facility. And if you are one of those coders that has to be hands-on with your providers, at least they're going to be able to see you. Okay, so that is just one thing. And again, if you've never been a medical coder before, it is great to start at a facility. If you start at home, you get lucky to start at home right away, hey, that's great too. But I'm just letting you know now that that is a source of frustration for new coders when they start at home brand new, because they thought it was one thing and they thought it was easy, and then they come to find out it's not so easy. And some people think, oh, well, if I'm at home, I don't have nobody watching me. I can start a load of laundry. I can go feed the kids. I can go run around. I can go do errands. No, ma'am. No, sir. You need to be there at your desk working as if you were at the office. And a lot of times for productivity standards, The productivity standards for those who work at home is going to be a little bit higher because they say that you are working at home. You should have 0 distractions. So that's another thing too. It's not that you're going to be so lackadaisical that you can just roll out of bed and log right in. You have to treat it like you're going to the office, and you have to be in your area. And sometimes they're watching. Employers have a way of looking at your productivity, and if they see that you're not at your desk, maybe they're using Microsoft Teams and you're showing us away. What are you away so long for? I'm not seeing you move anything in the queues or in the production. So what were you doing? And so there's always that, guys. You have to think about those things. So if you're not disciplined as far as like, okay, I can stay at home and work, but I like to go and run and do all these things, and I need time with my family and my kids. Again, guys, you have to start and stop when you're working, and that's difficult when you are a medical coder, especially when you get into these specialty clinics like cardio and ortho and neuro. You know, that it needs your focus, and this job demands your focus. So that is another reason why you shouldn't get into it, is that that's your sole focus, because you may or may not be able to get a remote job right away. So that is just something to keep in mind. Some people do. I mean, some people are able to get in it and it's no problem, it's no issue. And don't make any comments about it like, oh, I was able to do that. It doesn't matter. What the purpose of this video, again, is to tell those who think that this is going to be something that is so easy. It is not always easy for everybody. Okay, so again, just making that clear. And finally, the last thing that you shouldn't get into medical coding for is the money. A lot of people are fixated on money, and as a hard and fast rule, we don't talk about dollars and specifics on my channel. Today is no exception. I'm still going to stick with that. So if you came here for that, you're never going to get it out of me. Here's the thing, guys. A lot of times people are lied to, and I see these disgusting trade schools that advertise, oh, medical coders make this high amount of money, and people go for it because, again, this school is trying to sell this field that takes work and diligence and hours of study to do. Because if you told people this, oh no, a lot of people would say no, they're not going to do that. They want something easier because a lot of people would choose a path of least resistance. This field is going to give you resistance. If you were actually honest and these schools actually said, hey, when you get done with this program, you may not understand everything. And oh yeah, by the way, it may be a little difficult for you if you don't have a good resume to find a job, if you can't pass your assessment tests that these employers give you. Again, that's another thing that's hard. You may or may not be able to work at home right away. I mean, there's just a laundry list of things, again. And so, but for some people, if they put that dollar amount, that sacred dollar amount in front of them, they're like, oh yeah, I'll do it. But then when they get in it and they start studying it, they're like, oh crap, this is what I have to do. This is what I have to know and learn. And so that's the thing. Again, guys, you don't be swayed by money. And a lot of times people will say, well, that's too low, what I see what they're starting out at. Again, if you are getting into this for the money, you're getting into it for the wrong reasons. You are starting at that salary. It does not mean that you have to stay at that salary. Because when I started, I got 3 raises in the course of 1 year because of the progression of where I was going. And so they weren't little raises, these were big raises. So again, it really all depends on where you are. If you are willing to start off, okay, I'm going to start off at this dollar amount, but I know I don't have to stay here. Sometimes it'll be, okay, we're going to start you at this, and then in 6 months we'll give you a raise, or within a year we'll give you a raise. It really all depends on the employer. Okay, so that is something that you should consider and think about, because a lot of times people say, well, they get so excited about medical coding, and then they heard about this really high salary, and then all of a sudden they start looking for themselves after they've gotten into the program, and then they say, well, wait a second, I don't see that as a starting salary. I see this other number as a starting salary, so which one is it? Again, guys, you have to do your research, and you don't have to stay at that salary. You can go up. And just because one employer is paying that doesn't mean all employers are paying that. Okay, that's number one. Number two, a lot of times they're going to want you to have that experience. So if somebody's willing to hire you with no experience, but you were able to pass a assessment test and everything looks great and you're all ready to go and you're taking the time to learn, do your time of learning, maybe a year or so, get some time in, and then continue to apply for other positions if you don't want to stay there. If you don't want to stay there and you want to continue on and perhaps make more money someplace else, then by all means do that. You don't have to stay where you are. And that's the thing. It's okay to get into the industry and find out where you want to go. Not every place that you start is where you're going to finish. All right. So that is something that you should think about and consider. But if you're getting into this just to chase the money, just to chase the dollar, well, I started at this salary, but I deserve more, but I'm not doing my homework. I'm not doing all of these things to learn so I can better myself, so I can get into harder clinics, so I can use my knowledge. I'm not doing all of this, but I want to make more money. You're not entitled to anything. I'm just saying that right now. You are not entitled to anything. And I probably earned a dislike. I really don't care, because this field demands people who are going to study. I see a lot of coders who don't study. I do. This field is for studious people. This field is for studious people who continually want to learn, who are trying to better themselves. And this is a stable field. I will say that. This is a stable field. It is not going anywhere, despite what you may hear from some naysayers. Artificial intelligence. They've been threatening this for years. For years. And again, I have always said that with artificial intelligence, this would literally have to be able to read the provider's mind. Literally. And there is no software that, unless it's implanted in that provider's brain, which, hello, they would never do, because why would they do that? And it's thinking exactly as that provider thinks. Come on, guys. No, I don't think so. So again, this field is not going anywhere. Does it evolve? Yes, it does. Think about it at that time, right? They were using a book, right? And we were in books all the way up until just a few years ago when the internet exploded and all of a sudden all of these encoders came out. And now you have electronic medical records. And so there's all of these things that are evolving to make things better. And yes, while some of these electronic records select the codes, it doesn't necessarily mean that those codes are correct. And so that's why we have to have medical coders who are human and who can look at these things. Because again, we're not quite there yet. That's really, really advanced things, AI and stuff like that. And when you think about it, it's very expensive. And not just that, again, how accurate is it? A computer program is only as smart as you're telling it to be. And again, you have to really think about these things. And there's going to be some people that say, oh yeah, it's going to be, and they've said that since before I started. And when I started, they were like, oh yeah, it'll be gone. And, and I'm like, really? I have a 14-year career. So again, people talking like they know and they don't know. So that is just my advice. If that's, if you're willing to accept all these things, and you're willing to go through the pain of having to learn and not know sometimes and be unsure, and then pass your certification exam, and then be out there in the workforce trying to find a job when a lot of people tell you, oh, must have experience. But if you are so stubborn that you still apply anyway, and you apply with a wonderful resume that lists all of your skills and everything that you have learned, and you're not going to sit there and get discouraged at the slightest bit of adversity, that you are just going to dig your heels in and keep going, that you are going to go to temp agencies so that you can try to get some kind of experience that specialize in medical professions, and you can Google that, Google temporary agencies for medical professionals in your neighborhood, and you'll be able to see some that come up. I mean, I've done this for the city of Dallas. I don't live in Dallas, but I wanted to see how many there were out there, and there were dozens out there. And so I'm just like, wow, people need to know that there's other resources out there to finding jobs. And sometimes you're going to start off in different positions. Sometimes you'll start off in medical billing. Sometimes you'll start off in medical records. Sometimes you'll start off in release of information. But these are all things that can lead you to medical coding. With release of information, we've learned HIPAA, right? Which is very important when you do release of information. But you're still working under that same umbrella. You're still working under that department. And it makes it easier for you to transfer in when you're already working. And so at that place that you want to work at. So there's just different alternatives. Somebody started off in utilization review. And that's how they were able to make that transfer over. And so I thought that was pretty incredible. I mean, that's a position I didn't even think of. But there's plenty of those positions. So you just have to get creative, guys. It is possible, but you have to do your research and you have to do your, you have to find ways of getting in, okay? And you can't have a defeatist attitude, because if you do, you've already lost. This is my advice anyway. But for those of you that are going to go ahead and stick with it, great. Welcome aboard. Get ready to learn. Get ready to grow. Get ready to advance your mind, because that's exactly what is going to happen when you surrender to learning more about medical coding. You will learn things and you will have wonderful conversations with super intelligent people. And I love that. That is part of a job perk for me, is having intelligent conversations, because I value intelligence. I value people who are smart, people who want to learn, and people who want to grow. And that's what I really love. It's part of my work that I love. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video if it helped you. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.